Hi all, Sociology of Education TNTEU, MA third semester syllabus oriented class. Unit 2, Social System and Education. In this class, first of all, I will discuss about social mobility. Second, we will look at social stratification. And finally, I will explain social deviant and their types. I would like to begin with the social mobility. Let's start with the social status. Every participants in a social system has duties or responsibilities that are related to the position or status of that individual within the system. The social status of the individual shift from one status to another is referred to as social mobility. Petrim Sorkin first introduced the concept social mobility in his book Social and Cultural Mobility. Social mobility refers to the shift in individuals' social status from one status to another. Types of social mobility. Horizontal mobility. Transition of an individual from one social group to another without any noticeable change is called horizontal mobility. This occurs when a person changes their occupation but their overall social status remains unchanged. For example, if a doctor practicing in a medical field is changed to teaching in a medical college, the occupation changed but the prestige and social status of the doctor remains same. Vertical mobility. A change in occupational status, political status and religious status of a person that causes a change in the societal position of that individual is called vertical mobility. It can be ascending or descending. What mobility? When a person moves from lower position in a society to a higher position. When a person moves upward, they often need to leave behind familiar surroundings such as family and place. It can also include people occupying the higher position in the same societal group. Downward mobility takes place when a person moves from higher position in a society to the lower position. It can occur when someone is caught performing a wrongful act that can result in the loss of position they currently hold. Intergenerational mobility. It happens when a social position changes from one generation to another. The change can upward or downward. For example, a father worked in a factory while son received an education that allowed him to become doctor or lawyer. Intragenerational mobility. Change in societal position occurs during the lifespan of a single generation. For example, an individual starts the career as a clerk and through their lives moves on a senior position such as a director. It also refers to change in the position between the siblings. One way is when a person climbs up to corporate ladder in their career. Compared to brother and sisters, this person's social status is higher than their siblings. This is called intergenerational mobility. That concludes social mobility, and this highlights the importance of the social status in the society. Now let us move to next topic, social stratification. Social stratification. Categorization of its people or ranking of these people based on factors such as wealth, income, education, family background and power. Social stratification is a hierarchical arrangement which group have different access to resources, power and perceived social worth. Stratification economic system based on wealth, net values of the money, assets of a person, income and their wages or income from investment. There are some other important factors that influence social status. In some culture, prestige university, working for a prestigious company or coming from an established family, these all valued in social status. In other social stratification is based on age. Some cultural beliefs of the society often reinforces social stratification. Economic condition, the amount of someone earns also make stratification. Social classification based on, for example, economic stratification and caste-based stratification, gender-based stratification and religious-based stratification. Some social networks, the connection that people have and the opportunities these allow people in finding jobs, partners and so on, they all use social stratification. Types of stratification. Slavery. Slavery is the one of the lowest level of any stratification in the system, as they possess virtually no power, no wealth of their own. Caste system. Caste systems are closed stratification systems, meaning the people can do very little to change the social standing of their birth. Caste system determine all aspects of individual's life such as appropriate occupation, marriage, partners and housing. Class system. Class systems are based on both social factor and individual achievement. Classes consist of set of people who have similar status based on factors like wealth, income, education, family background, occupation, etc. Class systems, unlike caste systems, these are open systems. This means that people can move to different level of the education or employment than their parents. Meritocracy, and this is an ideal system of stratification. Meritocracy, meanwhile, is a hypothetical social stratification in which one's socioeconomic status is determined by personal effort and their merits. Moving to the next topic, social deviance. A behavior that is found offensive and unacceptable in a social group is called social deviance. Social deviance can be formal, where an individual breaks the laws, and it can be informal, where an individual just deviant from unwritten norms of the society. Types of deviance. Formal deviance involves the violation of legislated laws. Example of this type of deviance include murder, rape, robbery, etc. Informal deviance involves the abuse of the informal social norms. These informal social norms includes rules of the lives that are unwritten but breaking them as wrong. Example, showing up late to work, cursing in a public, using inappropriate gestures, and gossiping. Variation in the definition of deviance. Variation by time. Any act considered deviant in one time period may be considered non-deviant in another period of time in a society. For example, in India, women pursuing collegiate education were defined as deviants in 19th century. But today, women pursuing higher education are not considered as deviant. Next, variation by culture. Behavior viewed as a deviant in one location or culture may be considered non-deviant in another. In some cultures, having more than one wife, polygamy is permitted. It may signify the high financial and social status of a man. In some other society, monogamy and being married to more than one woman is socially and legally punishable offense. There are also variations in the definition of deviance within the culture or between subculture of particular society. Is strictly prescribed. Free interaction between the sexes may not be considered deviant in a big cosmopolitan cities, but it may be so in village or small town. Similarly, teenage smoking may be invite different kind of reaction from different section of the population. One subculture may often have norms that are viewed as a deviant by other subculture in the same society. Variation by social position. Deviance can also vary with the social status. Certain behaviors are given a greater approval for men than women. Basic types of deviance and deviant. Culture and psychological deviation. In cultural deviation, one departs from the norms of a culture, while in psychological deviance deviates from the norms in the personality organization. For example, psychotic and neurotic. Individual and group deviance. In individual deviation, the person deviates from the norms of subculture. For example, a boy belongs to an educated family, takes to drugs, and becomes social dropout. In group deviation, a street corner, a gang of unemployed youth indulging in all sort of unlawful activities. These things condemned by the conventional morality of the society. Primary and secondary deviation. Primary deviation refers to the violation of the social norms committed by a person who is not labeled as a deviant, who is basically a conformist in his or her life. The deviant act is tolerated or concealed so that one is not identified as a deviant. In primary deviation, a person traveling ticketless once in a while, and a person slipping an extra apple into the shopping bag without paying for the extra. Secondary deviation is the which follows from one public identification as a deviant, one is labeled as a deviant. 5 types of deviant: freak, sinful, criminal, sick, and alienated. Freak. The definition of deviance as freak focuses not so much on behavioral patterns, it's focused on physical attributes. Here, deviance merely means variation from the average norms. The inadequacy of this definition is the attitudinal and behavioral attributes are not distributed in the population in the same way as physical attributes. Sinful. The deviant is as sinful is adjudged as such as the basis of religious ideological codes, commandments, texts, and doctrines. The terminology applied to such deviants include sinner, heretic, and apostate. The sinner violates certain norms and doctrines which she accepts, but accepts some other alternate norms and traditions. Criminal. Criminal deviant is defined according to the legal codes, particularly the criminal laws. Laws are enacted to prevent acts, injuries to society and the group welfare. Those who violate these laws are labeled as deviant and invite punishments. For example, murder, theft. Sick. The conception of deviance as sick is based on disease. When defined as sick or abnormal, the reaction of the society towards the deviance changes from punishment to treatment orientation. There is now growing tendency to think such behavior, which was regarded as criminal, as manifestation or symptoms of illness. For example, the drug addicts, heavy drinker, and homosexual are now regarded more as victims of some illness rather than criminals. Alienated. Deviants as alienated person focus on certain categories of social dropouts such as hippies. They feel impotent either to control their environment or to determine their own fate. They are confronted with sense of powerlessness and meaninglessness. In the modern industrial society, many people feel estranged and isolated from the values and norms of the society. That concludes social deviance and types of social deviance. First, I spoke about the shift from one status to another status of an individual is called social mobility. Then we looked at social stratification, categorizing or ranking of people based on wealth or income, etc. And finally, I told about offensive and unacceptable behavior of an individual in social groups called social deviance. Thank you for listening. Please send your valuable feedback. Keep learning. This is me, Salim.